This question I know will probably intrigue you, and I'm interested to hear your answer or your perspective on it.
Sure.
And I know it's something we've talked about before, which is hence the question. If we all have previous lives, why don't I remember?
Okay, well, that's a fairly easy one to answer.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to answer it because I know about some of mine. Okay, and I'm not going to reveal it online, but I can give you some of the detail. A couple of thousand years ago, I was in a situation. I was confronted by a situation which I had to make a decision as to what to do. And I made that decision knowing that if I was captured, shall we say, use that phrase, if I was held to account, it would involve a nasty death, possibly with torture as part of it, to get a confession. And yes, I was tortured, I was caught. Not for doing bad things, I was doing good things. Okay. My tongue was cut out, my teeth were taken out, and my head was chopped off.
Okay.
Now, I think most people who've ever been to the dentist without a painkiller, just imagine what that was like. The teeth yanked out, probably bashed out, tongue cut off, and that can kill you. Actually, that can kill you, because if it swells up, you can't breathe. Now, if I remembered that pain, I wouldn't want to remember it, because to live with that. I've also been burnt at the stake, not for doing anything bad, but for going against the order, the political order at the time. Horrendously painful.
And do you remember that, or do you just think it?
I was given that information telepathically. Okay.
So you don't remember it then?
I don't. No, I don't want to remember it. No.
So how do you?
But I tell you what I do feel. What I do feel is that if I watching a movie like Joan of Arc, it's classic, made by the French or the British court, and they burnt her at the stake. I feel really strange watching it. I really don't like it,
Okay.
So there's something there. There's something in.
But we all experience deja vu, don't we?
Yeah, very often.
I do.
Yeah, I do.
And sometimes that it can be on a small experience level. It could be, and we're not talking about going into the kitchen 6 times that day, because I'm going to. It's something a bit more intricate than that. But that doesn't mean to say. Does that mean to say that I've been there before, or is that just your brain being repetitive?
No, your soul recognises the place. It's like when you meet. It could be a place that you go to, and you've been there in a previous life.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember watching a film, Patton, being the American general from the Second World War. Well, he had a tremendous reputation as a warrior, and he was he'd go into the fight and stop. And he was in I think he was in Europe somewhere, and he came to a site, and he stood there and he said, "I was here 1,500 years ago," and he remembered the battle that he'd fought. Or had an intuition that he'd been there before. No, there's something else I was going to say. I've just forgotten it. It's gone.
So here's throwing something into the sticks, just to be devil's advocate. When I go to Italy, I always bring something back, whether it's a handbag or whether it's a piece of cheese, because they do great cheese. So if I've had a previous life, why haven't I brought anything tangible with me, regardless of how many years in between?
Tangible?
Well, you know, like I don't know, like what I wore, like what I wrote, like something that was part of me. And I am being devil's advocate here. I am trying to really pick at it.
Okay. Well, it's whatever you did in that particular past life, everything about it's been recorded. So if you were a great fan of Italian cheese at that time, then that's been recorded. However, cheese doesn't last very long. I don't see any need for that to really happen if it's been recorded. You know,
Okay.
You know, anything that is physical could potentially decay. You know, McDonald's hamburgers don't, but most other things. Oh, I can get done for that one.
Other foods are available.
But you know, most things decay. So what would be the point? I'm just thinking.
Okay, and I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just, you know, playing with it a little bit. I'm just trying, because I'm on the line about afterlife and before life. I really am. And I think I'm on the line because I'm still arguing it in my head. In for example, some of the questions that I've asked, in some of the things that you've said. Because I guess in life, we all look for reasons. We all look for evidence, don't we?
Of course.
So you look for some form of evidence of a previous life.
Right, I think
for me or for you.
Yeah, I think I've just remembered the thing that I'd just forgotten. Yeah, if you had full memory, so if you say in a previous life, you have a relationship with somebody that's one of in your soul family, and that relationship does not work in some way, or there's some negativity attached to it, some fear-based aspect attached to that particular relationship. You then, you then pass. You go back to heaven, and that relationship was not resolved. Okay, it's still hanging in the air. It's one of those things that needs to be balanced. Any karma that was attached to the negativity of that relationship has got to be resolved. Okay, and so it will be part of a future life that you resolve that issue. Now, if you could remember it, it may be more difficult to resolve it because it's still there in your system.
Okay.
So, but if you can't remember it, you start from a clean sheet. Okay. So if you're starting from a clean sheet, it's more likely that you'll be able to resolve that situation rather than be holding this grudge or negative emotion within you, which you didn't resolve. So you're starting again. You're starting afresh with a clean sheet. That could be another reason why we don't have memory. Because each new life is an opportunity to get it right.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I hear that. So it's a good thing. Very much a good thing.
Well, certainly for those people who have suffered great pain, yes, absolutely. I don't think you could. you'd want to remember those things. You really wouldn't. And certainly not feel the pain of it. And we all know, I've had my fingers burnt. Literally, I burnt my finger and doing something in the kitchen, and I know what the pain feels like. Just imagine being burnt all over your body. Would you want to remember that? I wouldn't. Give me nightmares. So, yeah. Is there any other aspects of my explanation that you want to?
I'm understanding it more and more. It's you can understand though how a lot of people won't believe in it, or don't think it's true, or whatever the connotation is.
Well, let's just look at that. More than half the world, more than half the people on the planet do.
Okay.
The only reason...
How do you know that?
Well, look at the numbers of Hindus, the numbers of Buddhists, and whatever. Add them all up.
Okay.
Well, let's say a large proportion of the people. I'm not saying the majority, but let's say a large proportion of the people on planet Earth believe in reincarnation. And even some Christian sects do. Okay. Now, we have talked about this quite extensively in previous sessions, haven't we, Sophie?
Yeah, we've definitely touched on it before.
Okay, so what? Well, the reasons why certainly a large number of Christians, let's talk about Christians, may have problems believing it is because it's not in the Bible. And the reason it's not in the Bible is because it was taken out of the Bible and then forgotten about. And the records of that are in the Vatican.
So why aren't they put back in the Bible?
Well, just imagine the implications of that. The Catholic Church has destroyed one of the most important aspects of Jesus' teaching. And it happened by two Roman emperors that were responsible. But you
can't really pick and choose what goes in the Bible. The Bible's the Bible, and that's it.
Yeah, but if you, it's like censorship. Censorship is, and that's what they did. They censored it. In the same way that the Sanhedrin during Jesus' time censored Jesus, and they used the ultimate censor. They had him killed, or they got the Romans to do their dirty work for them. That was the ultimate censure, if you like. But when the Romans took over Christianity, firstly in the 4th century by Constantine the Great, who wanted something to unify his empire, because it was four emperors, because the Roman Empire got so large. It's very difficult to manage. So Constantine decided he wanted to be the number one guy, but he needed something to really back that idea up. So he used Christianity and Christians and the teachings of Christianity to give him that unifying force. But when they all met in Nicaea in 325 AD, they got all the bishops together and said, well, what texts are we going to put into the Bible? And they picked 4 plus Revelation. But there were 40.
So just going back a bit, if we've all had previous lives, and I know you strongly believe that you've had many previous lives, is this your best?
That's an interesting one. I'm going to answer that in a different way. I don't think I want to say it's my best, but what I think there's an accumulation, isn't there? You're always working towards soul evolution. You're always working towards getting your consciousness higher and higher and higher. And there is the expectation and the hope with every incarnation that you will move higher and higher. So I can't really answer that in my own personal situation. All I can try and answer it in a generalised way. So I'm thinking that if in each incarnation, each successive incarnation, you've managed to raise your vibration, then everything that you've done before has been valid and has helped towards your soul evolution.
So you're just getting better and better. And
then providing in the one that you're currently in, you don't mess things up and go backwards, and you can slide down the slippery slope. You know, I mean, the best example I can think of is, somebody that reaches a pinnacle. Let's say they're becoming incredibly famous. Maybe they're a rock star, or maybe they're a film star, or some public figure. And the pressure of that gets to them to such an extent that they try and find a way out of it through drugs or alcohol or whatever, and that takes them back down.
But in that moment, they don't think they are. At the moment, they probably think they're living their best life. Just drink or drugs is just in their interpretation of being in their best life, maybe.
Yeah. Well, we can all think of really famous people who went down as a result of fame and fortune and what have you. They went on the slippery slope through one means or another. So all I'm trying to say is, there is a spiritual staircase, and you can get to there, and you can go down a few, or you can jump a few. There is the possibility of going back down again.
So the idea is, in the next life, you just maintain that high level.
Maintain the momentum.
Yeah. Of going up and up and better and better.
That's right. So that's why I'm going to answer that question.
Okay.
I'm hoping that if this life is not the best one in terms of how I managed to raise my vibration, then it's the straw that not broke the camel's back, but it got me to the top. It may not have been the most impacted one, shall we say, but as long as I keep going up.
Okay.
I can't really. I do know a lot about some previous lives, and but I can't reveal that here.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. But it's a good subject, because it's it is one that gets mentioned, gets talked about. Clearly it's in the Bible, and I know me and you have talked about it, which is why I sort of wanted to pick your brains a little bit on it. So
pick away, my dear.
Yeah, but maybe we'll come back to it about previous lives and etc. But for the time being, thank you for that.
My pleasure.